My nephew destroyed my daughter's only chance at college because he was hungry. My daughter Bria is 16 and has been obsessed with baking since she could hold a spatula. She taught herself from YouTube videos and library books because we can't afford lessons. The state junior pastry championship winner gets a full scholarship to one of the best culinary colleges in the country and will never be able to afford tuition otherwise. This competition was her only shot. Bria spent 3 months practicing her showpiece cake. She designed a 3-tier masterpiece with hand-sculpted sugar flowers and intricate piping work that took hours to get right. She practiced each element dozens of times until her hands cramped and her fingers ached. I picked up extra shifts at work just to afford all the ingredients she burned through during practice. Butter and sugar and fondant aren't cheap when you're going through them every single day. Bria woke up at 5 in the morning every day for a week, leading up to the competition to perfect her technique. She watched videos of professional pastry chefs and paused them frame by frame to study their movements. She kept a notebook of everything she learned and made adjustments after every practice run. The competition was on Saturday. She made the final version of the cake on Friday night, and it was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. The flowers looked real. The frosting was flawless. She had tears in her eyes when she finished because she knew she had done something special. Then my sister Nadine called Friday afternoon. Her car had broken down and she asked if she and her son Mason could stay the night. I said yes because she was family. Mason is 14 and he's been a nightmare ever since Nadine's divorce 2 years ago. He talks back to everyone, breaks things, and throws tantrums when he doesn't get his way. Nadine never disciplines him. She says he's going through a hard time, but what she really means is she's given up on parenting him entirely. They showed up around 7. Mason immediately started opening cabinets and complaining that we didn't have any good snacks. Then he saw the cake on the counter. His eyes went wide and he reached for it. Bria stepped in front of him and said, "Don't touch that. It's for my competition tomorrow." Mason asked if he could have a slice. Bria said no. Mason looked at Nadine and whined, "She won't let me have any cake." Nadine said, "Just give him a small piece. What's the big deal?" Bria explained that she needed the entire cake intact for judging. She explained that this was for a scholarship. She explained that she had been working on it for 3 months. Nadine rolled her eyes and said, "You're being dramatic. It's just cake." Bria held her ground. Mason stormed off to the living room and Nadine followed him, muttering about how Bria needed to learn to share. We covered the cake carefully and went to bed. The competition started at 9 in the morning. I woke up at 6 to help Bria transport the cake safely. I walked into the kitchen and my stomach dropped. The cake was destroyed, not knocked over by accident, deliberately smashed. Frosting was smeared across the counter and dripping onto the floor. The sugar flowers that Bria had spent weeks perfecting were crushed into tiny pieces. Chunks of cake were scattered everywhere like someone had torn into it with their bare hands. Mason was sitting at the kitchen table eating a bowl of cereal. There were cake crumbs on his shirt and frosting on his fingers. Bria came in behind me and started screaming. Then she started sobbing so hard she couldn't breathe. I asked Mason what he did. He didn't even look up from his cereal. He said, "She said I couldn't have any, so I made sure she couldn't have it either." Nadine came running downstairs asking what all the noise was about. She saw the destroyed cake and her son sitting there with evidence all over him. I waited for her to apologize. I waited for her to punish him. I waited for her to show any sign that she understood what had just happened. Instead, she looked at Mason and said calmly, "Did you do this?" Mason pointed at Bria, who was hyperventilating on the floor. He said, "She was being a brat about it." Nadine turned to me. She said, "Well, she shouldn't have made such a big deal about it in front of him. She knows he has impulse control issues." I said, "He destroyed her competition entry. She's been working on this for 3 months. This was her only chance at the scholarship." Nadine shrugged. She said, "It's just a cake. She can make another one." I said, "The competition is in 3 hours." Nadine said, "Kids do things. You're overreacting." Bria was on her knees trying to salvage the sugar flowers. They crumbled in her hands. I told Nadine to get out of my house. She looked shocked. She said, "You're seriously kicking us out over cake?" I said, "I'm kicking you out because your son is cruel and you've raised him to think that's okay." Bria missed the competition and I haven't spoken to my sister since. I never will again.